Good evening and welcome to our regular meeting of council this Tuesday, May 21st. Call to order moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that the May 21st, 2024 council meeting of the Township of South Glengarry now be opened at 7:01 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. Didn't take off the paper clip. We will now rise for the singing of our national anthem. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll move to the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, there's one addition, a closed session item for reason B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, specifically a staffing matter.
Thank you. And are there any things coming of consent agenda?
Yes, item 10B and item 10D.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Carried. Approval of previous meeting minutes. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following meetings be adopted as circulated. Previous meeting minutes, May 6, 2024. Before I call the vote, were there any amendments or changes noted or omissions? Okay. All those in favor? Carried. We'll go into action request. AGCO license, Tartan Hall. Moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that Council direct the Mayor, the CEO, and the General Manager of Parks and Recreation and Culture to sign the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario license renewal form. Ms. Harbers?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. This report is coming forward tonight because we are renewing the license with the AGCO for this facility at Charline Rec Center for Tartan Hall. As you are aware, we carry a license for this facility so that we can serve alcohol. The renewal hasn't taken place since I've been in this position. However, the previous license had one staff member on the agreement. However, in communicating with a neighboring municipality, they had 3 administration or also a council member on the agreement on the license. That way, throughout the duration of that license, it is likely that there'd be at least one, administration still current on it, so that you don't run into a situation where you don't have any current staff on the agreement. So that's basically what that is tonight, unless council has any questions.
Any questions of council? All those in favor? Carried. Optimus Club fee waiver request, moved by Counselor Bougie, seconded by Counselor Jaworski. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-60 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry waive the facility rental fee of $197.75 for the licensed event taking place at Tartan Hall on June 7th, 2024. Ms. Harbers?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. It's pretty clear in the report, but this is just to waive the fee for the Optimus Club as they have submitted a request to waive the fee for their event, which is just an appreciation night for their volunteers, to have that fee waived for that event. So that is separate from Canada Day, which is the next report. So this is just for their event on June 7th. And in the report, it outlines that they would still need to submit their rental agreement and insurance, because any licensed events, even though we carry the license, they are required to provide insurance. And then also the resources for the event as well, so that you're aware. So as mentioned, it's $197.75 for a full day licensed rental at Tartan Hall.
Okay, are there any questions or comments from around the table? Okay, we'll just leave a 6-second delay for Stephanie or Councillor Jaworski for those online, because I think there is a few moments I don't want to miss her. Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Moving on to Optimus Club fee waiver request, Canada Day event, moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-57 be received and that Council of the Township of South Glengarry waive the mobile food license fee of $300 per food vendor during the Canada Day celebration at Smithfield Park. And furthermore, that the facility rental fees of $217.95 be waived. Ms. Harbers.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. You may recall that last year, the municipal bylaw had brought forward a report to waive the fees for the food vendor, and I think there might have been a couple separate reports for all the fees to be waived for Canada Day. So we just put it all in one report, which is outlined in here for the food vendor fees, which is $300 per vendor. And as mentioned in this report, again, the vendors would still be required to submit the proper paperwork, even if the fee is waived, and then also the park rental fee. And our department is certainly working with the Optimus Club to ensure that our resources are ready for Canada Day, as well as the Optimus Club is ready with proper paperwork and making sure we're on the same page with what's all being provided. So we're definitely working towards that and looking forward to their Canada Day celebration at Optimus Park, at Smithfield Park by the Optimus Club. So unless council has any questions, those are the fees that they are requesting to be waived.
Are there any questions or comments from around the table? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. Title Award RFP 2024-05 Enhanced Hamlet Signs. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-56 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry award procurement 2024-05 to VO Excavation in accordance with their submission of $17,704 plus HST, and that the General Manager of Infrastructure Services be authorized to sign any relevant documents. Ms. McDonald.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. This is exactly like the resolution says, a reminder that the hamlet signs are, that's not just me, the hamlet signs are the purple and gray ones that we put up half last year. So this would complete the project.
We're just going to try swapping out mics. Okay, so any questions or comments from around the table? Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. So last year we had turned down one, and then staff had done what they could during the year. What kind of percentage do you think that we were able to get up, or do you have even a ballpark? Because the quote's a lot better than it was before.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we were able to put up with our own forces maybe 5 and another I can't remember how many we were trying to do last year, maybe 40. So we had 20 that were done by outside forces. And there's, if the question is, can we do it ourselves? Probably not.
Thank you. The other thing is, they don't necessarily need to be the full height of the post we buy. I'm getting quite a few comments, and I've noticed it myself, like, you know, put the post in the ground, and then what looks like an appropriate height, you can always cut the top off those posts, but some of them seem to be awful tall.
Yeah, I think I've heard that one too. Councillor Jaworski did have a question, I believe, or a comment. We'll just wait 6 seconds. Yes, I think if I may comment on that one is, I think that's a budget constraint at one point several years ago, and I think we looked at 5 feet being the whole sign versus 5 feet being the written part of the sign. But as we said, maybe we drop them 2 or 3 feet and they look a little more sized. So any other questions or comments? All those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. So rural consent policies review and surplus dwellings to a farming operation update, moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2024-59 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry recommends to the SDNG counties that January 1st, 2024 becomes the new date included in the United Counties official plan, whereby up to 2 consents may be granted, excluding retained lot on properties designated rural district. And for those in the audience, I am correct to understand that consents is a severance, right? Go, Ms. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So on February 20th, 2024, County Council received a presentation from planning staff introducing this proposed official plan amendment. So currently, we have a policy that states that you can have up to 2 severances or consents on a parcel of property that's designated rural district, providing that parcel of property existed as of January 1st, 1980. It's quite a bit of an onerous exercise at times when we have individuals walk in or contact us to find out if a severance is possible to be approved on their property. Sometimes it can be very obvious as to when parcels were previously severed in those dates, but other times it's a difficult task. So it usually involves us having to pull copies of reference plans or surveys that were previously done. It's a great lucky day if we have a copy in our office, but unfortunately we don't have every copy, as it wasn't always the practice of the registry office to provide us a copy. And if we're able to find it and figure out the date of when it's approved, then that's really easy. We're able to then inform the public that yes, you can move forward and you can apply for an additional consent or maybe even 2 more. There are times, though, where it's almost impossible to determine when the lots were created. And that then results us sometimes incurring costs by going on a website that's called On Land. Registry offices don't exist anymore in the province where people can walk in and do searches, so everything's now online, and that comes with a cost. Or if we're unable to provide or find the information or provide the information, we then ask the individual to obtain a professional title search or go through their lawyer to prove to us when those lots are created. And it's not impossible, it just means it's an extra step and sometimes an extra cost for the individuals. So looking at now changing the date, on April 10th of 2024, all the planning staff across the United Counties got together to discuss what the options would be to look at changing the date. And we talked about it maybe possibly becoming January 1st, 2024, or possibly the date of the new provincial policy statement, which we believe is coming out very soon. So that possibly could be June 2024. or maybe even being February 4th, 2018, which was the date of the approval of the official plan, and the approval date would be from the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. So looking at all the options, it really is the easiest to choose January 1st, 2024. With the information we have available in our office, moving forward, if this is the date, it really does allow us to provide better service to the public because we're able to start fresh and start at a very recent date and not really have to worry about the past. Not only that, in the official plan in 2006 when it was created, the date January 1st, 1980 was chosen because we had an abundance of supply of building lots, according to the consultant that did the work. And as I mentioned in my staff report, we had over 1,600 vacant lot supply that was over and above large agricultural parcels. That has changed. It wasn't easy to come up with an exact number to council to show or demonstrate exactly how many have been developed, how many are remaining, and then what's been created through subdivisions. But we know over the years when we're averaging creating approximately 10 building lots, because many of our severances can be lot additions or surplus dwellings, we're not adding a lot more lots to the mix. And when you're looking at how many homes we're building in a year, we're obviously depleting those lots. So if council is willing to accept the resolution of January 1st, 2024, that's something that we certainly would appreciate, and we would relay that information to County Council. Also in my staff report, I did provide an update to council as to another official plan amendment that may be coming that would be a change to surplus residential dwellings in agricultural parcels. And I explained what those changes are. I'm not looking for council to endorse that portion. That was more of an information report, but certainly asking if you would support the resolution to permit the date to change to January 1st, 2024. And I felt it was important to communicate this to council so you're aware of the policies that could be changing. Not only that, I think this could be a positive benefit to South Glengarry in terms of creating more development opportunities to hopefully help address some housing shortages that we are experiencing locally and across the province. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions and comments from council? Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Thanks for the report, and definitely in favor of updating it. 44 years, long time, and some municipalities are ahead of us, and so I think it's a good thing. I did want to thank you for bringing forward the surplus dwelling severance issue. I think it's something that the ag community, especially as farms get larger, it's something that they need to be able to use. They often are buying a neighboring farm and need to be able to get rid of a surplus dwelling that it's not feasible to buy that farm if you have to carry that house and become a landlord, and it's good to have more people in the community and families and so forth. And so I think it is maybe, you and I had talked about this before, I think maybe what they're trying to do is address what they see as a potential problem that, a farmer could technically, on agricultural land where there is no house, build a house and then sever it as an access dwelling to get around a lot creation thing. So just, kind of for the record, like, is it a big problem in our township? And have you seen a lot of it? I know of two, and, both of those parcels did not use up any prime farmland. Both were in locations where it made sense to not to have a lot instead of trying to farm it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to answer that question, I'm also only aware of two. The official plan came into effect in September 2006, the same time I started working here. So in the 18 years, we've only completed two. I don't know how many there would be across the United Counties, though. But for South Glengarry, it is two.
All right, well, I think that's answers my question. So I'm really not in favor of them changing that too much, especially going to that number of years. A senior person could put a house as they retired, and then, they would not be able to dispose of that house afterwards for, family to have to keep looking after that house. So anyway, I'm glad you brought it to our attention.
Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to echo the same sentiments as the Deputy Mayor. Along the same lines, we would then just turn into places down in southwestern Ontario, like Perth County and some of the primary ag municipalities down there that have that change in their official plans, and farmers essentially buy farms and hi-ho out houses and tear them down. So it's when we're facing housing shortages, and there's often an old farmhouse is a good starter home for a young family across any spot in Ontario. So they're generally more affordable and a decent spot to stay. But it kind of eliminates that altogether. You'll just see farmers tearing down the houses because it's not worth the headaches to fix them up and maintain them. So I think you'll just see a loss of residence dwellings in the municipality if we did eliminate that.
Councillor Bougie?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you, Ms. Haley, for the report. And over the years, I've had quite a few people reach out to me wanting to sever their lot, but it wasn't possible because of our date of 1980. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of happy residents knowing that now if we do go January 1st, 2024, they'll be able to, excuse me, get that severance and potentially build a home. And it's positive for everyone in the township and further growth of our township as well. So it's a good news story here.
May I ask, just from a family anecdotal history, I understand Schlottenberg Township used to be the township that kind of severed everything. Do we have any concerns for like mass severances and a lot of lots on like ribbon development coming from this? I imagine not. I think there's processes in place. I'm just curious if you have any thoughts on that yet, and if you don't, that's fine too.
I don't think we're going to see a lot of ribbon development because there's different policies in place that there would have been in the 70s, 80s, and even early 90s. For example, if you're fronting on a county road, there's more restrictive policies now as to where accesses can be created. We also have more up-to-date policies such as our natural heritage strategy, whereby there could be areas identified as significant woodlands or wetlands, and so that would trigger an environmental impact study, and sometimes that means you can't move forward with the development or a lot creation, or it might limit it to maybe one lot and not two. And so there's a lot of different constraints that we have to look at when we're dealing with residents to explain to them what is possible, what may not be possible, and what they could encounter through conditions of consent before they receive their final approval. I'm not saying that we're not going to see some areas where it's going to be much easier than others, but it's not going to be a free-for-all because of the policies that are in place.
Okay, no, that's good, because I look at where we kind of live, and I think the people who are not farmers live in the villages, and the people that farm are on the concession roads or a little bit outside the villages. So it works perfectly, the system, I find. So I just don't want to, put a house beside, a farm lot just because you can. And then I think if I'm going to go on a slight ramble anecdotally, I worked for Deputy Mayor Lang's brother, and there was a residential development beside an industrial park, and then all of a sudden they had to make fencing and this, and then I just want to avoid that, but I think we have all those processes to avoid that, and I just thank you for answering that question and allowing my ramble, Council. All those in favor of the motion as read. Carried. We'll go to 7F, request to purchase unopened road allowance between concession 1 and 2, south side of Lot 19, former Township of Charlottenburg. Moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2024-58 be received and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry denies the request to purchase the portion of unopened road allowance located between concession 1 and 2 on the south side of Lot 19 in the former Township of Charlottenburg, now in the Township of South Glengarry. Ms. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you can see in the agenda, we received a request to purchase the unopened road allowance located between concession 1 and 2 on the south side of Lot 19 in the former Township of Charlottenburg. In the staff report, we provided to you an image of the approximate location of the road allowance. A title search was completed, and it was determined that we are the owner of the unopened road allowance. I guess this has been a question of some members of the public in the past. We also identified that there's a current agreement in place with the Glendale ATV Club to use this unopened road allowance. Infrastructure Services has reviewed this, and they recommend that the township continues to own the unopened road allowance, both due to the location, possible future use, and because of that usage agreement in place with the ATV Club. Should council wish to consider selling this unopened road allowance, we do have a section in Bylaw 21-2020, which is our purchase of property bylaw, that speaks to South Glengarry will not typically consider the stop up and closing of an unopened road allowance where the road allowance might potentially serve future development or movement of traffic. That being said, if council wishes to sell the portion of the unopened road allowance, we do have an approval process in place. If council denies this recommendation this evening, we would then move forward with bringing a staff report to council to request that this land become declared surplus. It would then be followed by a survey that would need to be completed, as well as an appraisal that would need to be completed. And we would then bring a report back to council, and all costs incurred for this process would have to be absorbed by the person who's proposing to purchase the property. And you can see in the staff report that we are recommending to deny the request to purchase the unopened road allowance as identified. Ms. McDonald, our General Manager of Infrastructure, can answer any questions as well. She told me it was okay to tell you that. So if there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Are there any questions or comments of council? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. All right, so in our agenda, this page might look like a adjournment resolution. However, this one is in support resolution, Public Health, Ontario process phasing out free water testing for private wells, Archipelago. It was moved by Deputy Mayor. Can I get a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Bougie. I'll read it and we can approve it or not. Whereas the Ontario Auditor General's annual report on public health from December 2023 indicates that Public Health Ontario is proposing the phasing out of free provincial water testing services for private drinking water, and whereas free private drinking water testing services has played a pivotal role in safeguarding public health, particularly in rural communities, including the entire town of Archipelago, that rely predominantly on private drinking water, and whereas the removal of free private drinking water testing could lead to a reduction in testing, potentially increasing the risk of waterborne diseases in these vulnerable populations. And whereas the tragic events in Walkerton, Ontario underscore the critical importance of safe drinking water, now therefore be it resolved that the Township of South Glengarry support the Township of Archipelago and hereby requests that the province reconsider and ultimately decide against the proposed phasing out of free private drinking water testing services. Furthermore, be it resolved that this resolution be sent to the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks, Minister of Health, SD&G District Health Unit, and MPP Nolan Quinn. Deputy Mayor Lang, did you have anything further?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, we spoke to it last meeting, and I just think it's an important service that a lot of our residents use, and I'd like to see it stay.
Are there any questions or comments of council? All those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. We will now go into bylaws, 2024 budget and tax rates. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 2024-60 be received, and that bylaw 2024-27, being a bylaw to adopt the taxes and final taxation installment and due dates for the year 2023, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 21st day of May 2024. Ms. McDonald, sorry.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick note that it should say the year 2024 in the resolution. I just caught that.
I'll make that change.
So yes, as everyone's aware, this is the budget that we last spoke about at the beginning of March. So we finished with a 6.53% increase over our levy last year for a total of $11,052,418. So this bylaw tonight just sort of finalizes the budget and lets us prepare our tax bills from July.
Thank you. I don't know why the static's on that side, but did anybody have any questions or comments of this resolution? All right, all those in favor of the motion as amended, just changing 2023 to 2024? Carried. I will just circulate this. I made the change, but since there was a mover and a second, I would like them to just sign beside it afterwards. Going into items for consideration, 9A, IFC, or the annual review of the asset management progress. Ms. McDonald.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. I was hoping if I moved more this way that the static would go away, but it did not. So in our strategic asset management policy, it states the council will conduct an annual review of the township's asset management progress on or before July 1 in each year to meet the requirements of the Ontario regulation, and that address must include our progress, any factors impeding our progress, and a strategy to remove those impeding factors. So a reminder that in 2022, we approved the first version of our asset management plan. We are working towards updating it to include all of our non-core assets. So right now, we're just looking at our progress in terms of our core assets, so our roads, our bridges, our water, and our wastewater infrastructure. Sorry. We haven't done this before in quite such a formal manner. I've updated council as we've gone along, but this is our first. Sorry, there's a little bug in front of my face. But this is our first fulsome review of our AMP. So if council doesn't like how we've presented this information or wants changes to their review or add information to it, like this is your review, we've just kind of given you the tools in which to have it. So we've set it up to have a section A, which is our implementation progress, where we've taken the capital tables from our asset management plan that were approved by council and just kind of said what we thought we'd achieve and what we did achieve. So in areas, I'll just run through it. So we have our capital roads plan. We're fairly on track with a few things that were deferred or delayed, and we'll be updating our plan after receipt of our roads needs study, hopefully soon. In our bridge plan, that's where you can really start seeing the impacts. So on page 2 and 3 of this report, you can see in 2022, we completed a lot of bridge work. In 2023, we deferred. And the impact of that deferral is that mostly everything under 2024 is further deferred. And I think that's the purpose of the asset management plan, just so we can see that every choice that is made has an impact somewhere. And we kind of, in this summary, anywhere where we did defer work, we justified why it was deferred as a reminder to council, because I know you receive hundreds of reports every year and it's challenging to go back through and read them all. When we look at the progress of our capital water program, we're on track, except for with the hydrant expansion in Glen Walter. And capital sanitary, we're also on track. And our sanitary and water our capital plans are based on a 2008 study that was done by Todd and Sim Subicki Associates. It's been rejigged over the years, but it's very much age-based. So when we say that we've deferred a few things, that's based on our Director of Water's knowledge of the system and where he believes the condition doesn't warrant a replacement at the age date. So we've said, okay, if we just went age-based, we need to defer it or replace it now, but it'll get us a few more years. So that's kind of, we're trying to get more towards condition-based and like away from age-based, but it takes time, and I expect we'll be there in, I don't know, next 5-ish years. Really important, as a heads up to council, when our permits are due, when our license is due for our drinking water systems, and that will be on December 8th, 2025, part of our submission to the MECP will be a financial plan for water, which needs to be supported by a resolution through council. So sometime in the next year, there'll be a financial plan for our water system. It will be fairly robust, I imagine. I expect it will be put in next year's budget because we will need assistance to develop that plan. The Director of Water and I have some thoughts that we'll bring back, but just a heads up that specifically on the water side, like this capital plan will change based on the financial plan that will be approved through council. And that is at the OWWA conference that Mr. Segi and I recently attended, that was hammered into our heads at the MECP presentation that it must be resolved through council, and that in the past municipalities were given a bit more leeway, but that leeway is done. So we will be back. But back to our own AMP, the section B is implementation progress against the level of service. So our AMP did talk about the baseline level of service. So we didn't set targets, that comes next, but we're just kind of showing how we've changed baseline 2022 to 2024. We're pretty similar. The one place where we dropped was our average bridge condition index, which went from a 72 good to a 68 fair between 2022 and 2024. But across the board, we're not moving and shaking in any particular direction, which I think is okay because all of our condition, like all of our baselines in 2022 were fairly good. Section 3 of the report talks about our impeding factors, and these are again just administration's observations. So if council has other observations, this would be the venue in which you can tell us, and I can amend this review for you. We've put in that our impeding factors are funding. I think everyone knows that costs are going up, so doing some of these projects are incredibly challenging at times. Our lack of available data, but we are continuing to collect. So I mean, I think that's just an impeding factor until we get rocking and rolling. Staffing versus workload, there's a lot to do and only a limited amount of brain power in people. And then there's a lack of alignment on key concepts. And I think that just comes from having more discussions with people. So, I mean, they're not supposed to be negative, just some impeding factors, and some of them are fairly easy to mitigate. So we've come up with a few resulting strategies that we could employ. One being our asset rationalizations process, which was already started for roads and bridges. That's a really good one for kind of tackling the lack of funding and the lack of alignment. So if we can kind of look at the big picture and put the pieces together, we may be able to come up with a sustainable path forward for the municipality when considering all assets. Right now, again, we're only looking at the core assets, but soon we'll be putting in all the non-core, continue our data collection process, and then just more updates to senior management and council per the strategic asset management policy. So as we move towards defining levels of service and what we want to achieve through our AMP, like we are going to need to have a lot of conversations, council as a group and hopefully supported by us, and to figure out what that might be and how that looks for South Glengarry in the future. So again, this is our first real robust review of our AMP and our progress to date. So if there's any comments or things you'd like to see put into this, I can revise it, bring it back, and have it, I suppose, accepted through a resolution as being your review of our progress to date. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just, it might not be fair to ask, so 2022, we needed our core assets. 2024, we needed our non-core assets, and that's current levels of service. Is it 2025 or 2026 when we need like the future or expected levels of service?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it is 2025.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Councillor Bougie?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you, Ms. McDonald, for laying this out. I think it's very well done, and it's well summarized as well. It's not overwhelming. I mean, everything's there, easy to read tables. And I mean, some people might be looking at this at residents and saying, well, why is everything deferred? And I mean, asset management plan is really a living document, and things change. Like we have construction price index, inflation has kind of gotten out of control. So everything we go to tender is coming up way over than expected. So I mean, really, without provincial and federal funding, we're going to get behind, is really the bottom line. With the amount of assets we have, it's not sustainable without provincial and federal funding. So, but it is very nice to see this laid out that way, and hopefully provincial and federal money is coming soon.
That's fair, and if I may, I sometimes see people harp on the provincial government, and OMPF funding, I think I mentioned it before, is something that was to offset the 25% tax class to the farmers, and I'll say it probably once every year, so here's my time, is I do not want our local farmers to pay 25 cents, but I would love for levels of government to recognize that, you know, if you're in Oakville, you would never put 25% on the auto industry because that would scuttle their taxes, and it would probably be about $3 million more to us right now. So we get about $1 million in OMPF. So that, I think it has been a bell that's been rung many times, but it's one that I'd like to take a kick at the can of, perhaps administratively, to review like what that looks like locally, because you're talking probably $36 million to STNG in lost taxation, and we don't want our farmers to pay it. We just want those who benefit to share it with the province. However, we'll need to come up with that same line, well said. Also, and skipping a little bit to update number 2, would be, you had mentioned the students. Could you give them a call out as helpful to get increased data? There were 2 students mentioned, I think, in update 2. Could you just highlight them publicly? I think it was Mr. De Silva, your summer students.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to, Mr. Mayor. So Last summer, Kian McDonnell and Joshua De Silva were key in us obtaining our culvert data and all of our traffic count data. And really any other speed data, anything that we needed information on, we could just task to them and they would go out and get it done for us. So thank you both to those gentlemen.
And Councillor Jaworski, did you have anything? I didn't see your hand, but sometimes it's hard remotely. Nope, okay. So that was items for considerations. So I believe that then we'll move on to consent items. There were 2 pulled. Consent item 10B. That was myself. I just wanted to say thank you for getting that back to us, and I believe you had sent a message to the delegates, so that was a quick turnaround. They'll appreciate that. I mean, the information is there, and if as I kind of said, was better to be like have a plan and be list-like for that plan than to say we can't do things. However, one thing in reading that, and that I was somewhat surprised by, and it's just levels of service, and I think you'd mentioned it before, is that 1,500 centimeters for a pothole is, so that could be like a 50 by 30 centimeter pothole, so like something like this and about that deep on that class of road is considered acceptable currently under maintenance standards. And it's just sometimes when you think about that, it's like those pictures were not that, but at the same time, that's perhaps not what we want as council to strive for. But it's something to consider about as we go into strategic planning and then even next year's budget and all those things. So I thank you for highlighting that because it's pretty clear. We'll go to 10D, sponsorship agreements. Councillor Jaworski and Ms. Harbers may come up. All right, thank you. I'll go to Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I was just going to ask Ms. Harbers, has we had initial conversations just based on, we used to get 100% of home games with the Charlotte Rebels Junior B team, as Alexandria got 100% of the Glens. Is there any kind of structure as to, are we anticipating lost ice revenue? I mean, I would assume it'll probably be picked up by recreational groups in quick order, but is this to be expected that we're going to be losing some ice time, or has that been kind of communicated to us yet?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. We have had informal conversations. We have not received a schedule yet. However, it's our understanding that we will be receiving half of the games and half of the practices. So right now, for those of you that don't know, Junior B rents the ice on Tuesday evenings for 2 hours for a practice, and then for 3 hours on Saturday evenings for games. So it's approximately 5 hours per week, which is, you know, substantially less already than what the other groups, skating club and minor hockey, use, and they have this amount of ads. We are anticipating that it will be half of that. So until we have a schedule, we won't really know, because we are waiting to have the schedule so we can see if other groups could be renting. We have had many inquiries about the ice. However, because it would likely be an every other week type of rental, that would only attract certain groups. However, we feel confident that there are other groups out there looking for ice. It's a prime time ice. So that's all we know at this time, and that's why I had put in there that we are bringing forward a report once we have a schedule. It's just typically we like to have the sponsorship agreements done around this time or even earlier, because if in-ice logos change or board ads change, it gives that time for maybe there's a group that needs to find more sponsorships, or they need to order the in-ice logo that needs to be in by a certain date. So that's why we try to get ahead of it, but understanding obviously we can certainly wait on doing, like, renewing these agreements once we have the scheduling update. It's just, for this year, it might just be a little tight, that's all.
Counselor Jaworski?
Oh, I was just. a
Oh, sorry.
supplemental, please.
Before you go, Counselor Jaworski, Counselor McNell had a supplemental question, and then we'll get to you.
I was just going to go along the same lines as Councillor Jaworski. I mean, the agreement says the Rebels. It does not say the Brigade. I think we do have to recognize that they're not going to pay for the ice time that they were using. I've always supported the Rebels. I always think it's a great organization. It really helps our minor hockey when there's a junior team here. But we do have to kind of recognize that it may not, what's fair isn't always equal, but this is not quite the agreement that was originally written up, so there may have to be a change and that will become equitable, I'm sure, and I have lots of confidence in you to negotiate that, but just something we shouldn't rush into any agreement along the same lines as Councillor Jaworski.
Ms. Harbers has a comment, then we'll go to Counselor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. We can certainly wait on the sponsorship agreement. I just wanted to mention, I forgot to mention earlier, in those informal conversations with Junior B, although we were assuming we would be getting half of the ice time for practices and games, it's my understanding that Junior B would also like to use some of their ice times that they wouldn't have a game here to do alumni games and other sorts of events in order to keep renting the ice. But again, at this time, we don't have a formal schedule, so.
Counselor Jaworski?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have been communicating with North Glengarry, especially with the recent change in Junior B. So yes, they do plan on opening later than they normally do. With the cost of operating an arena in the summer months becomes quite costly, and there's not as much of a cost recovery because the rentals are obviously not as many hours in the end of August, early September. For Charlan, I'd have to look at a calendar, but I believe we are set to open on the 9th, which is the Monday following the Labor Day. So any other rentals that typically do spring or earlier ice training and stuff, they typically go to the Benson Center and use that one pad that they keep open for the summer. Our rental groups, Minor Hockey, Skating Club, and Junior B are aware of that anticipated date for opening.
And just thinking, and probably not ideal for the groups, but it would be easier for you as a facility user to, or somebody who's booking ice to say, do you want your games here or your practices here, right? Because as you said, if somebody's using like every second Tuesday, like I don't know if that's part of the conversation, but I guess like I don't know if ultimately that's great, but it's something that should be considered too, right? Because if it's hard to fill every second Thursday or every second Tuesday, sorry. But I think that's it for that one, so thank you very much. So we'll go for the consent agenda. Moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that council accepts the items listed on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Carried. So this is what. So for closed session, moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor McDonnell. Be it resolved that council convene to close session at 7:51 p.m. to discuss the following items under Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act SO 2001. 2, a meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to public if the subject matter being considered is K, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board, specifically ongoing negotiations. K, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on or on behalf of the municipality or local board. B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, specifically ongoing negotiations. B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, specifically a staffing matter. And then again, that same one. B, personal matters about an identifiable, oh my goodness, I'm struggling with that, sorry everyone. Identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, specifically a staffing matter. All those in favor of the resolution as read? Carried. To those on camera, we will be back reporting or coming out without reporting an open session. Welcome back as we come out of closed session. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be resolved that council rise and reconvene at 9:59 PM into open session without reporting. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be resolved that administration be directed to carry out all actions as specified in closed session minutes. All those in favor? Carried. Confirming bylaw, moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that bylaw 2024-28, being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, ratify matters dealt with by resolution, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 21st day of May 2024. All those in favor? Carried. Adjournment, moved by Councillor McDonnell, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry adjourn to the call of the chair at 10 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. Oh, I'm good, sorry.